My YouTube. My name is Beatrice Ajayi. I'm an artist based in Glasgow in Scotland, and I want to be able to share my time here in my studio with you guys. So today I wanted to do a studio sketchbook tour, because I wanted to get some more inspiration for what I can work on. I feel like my focus has been quite all over the place recently. So I thought today I should start off by looking back at some of my sketchbook work and getting some new inspiration from work I've done before. And there are things that I might have forgotten that I wanted to actually explore in my artwork. So let's have a look at what I have here and see where we go from here. So if it's your first time here, welcome. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate your time. And I'm going to turn you around so that you can see where I'm going to be hooking you up. So just turn this and prep myself. I might be a bit haphazard, but please bear with me. So let's just get this ready. And let's just make sure that you are in place for what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, I'll just put this other light on here. I've just realized it's off. Awesome. Doing live is a whole different level of expertise. But yeah, so this is some of my sketchbooks I have out already that I've been looking at that I'm trying to get some inspiration from. I've really last year, 2024, started looking at working on a lot more portraits than I usually did. And so I've worked on oil paintings, sketches, trying to also work on really getting my realism a bit more in place. And so I spent a lot of time just sketching from resources and sources to get some of that inspiration in as well. So I really like florals. So this is one of the explorations I had, and I really like to batch research things. So a lot of floral work that I have put in here at the beginning. So trying to tie in ideas. So I really love working on stags as well. Here in Scotland, you see deer around, and I really enjoy working on those as well. So those have been one of the inspirations that I know I've had for a long time, and of late I hadn't been doing as much. I've been looking at some of my older artwork and framing some of them recently. So it's been really good to start looking back in my sketchbooks and remind myself of the free way that I did things. Some of them actually were through collage as well. So I've really been interested in working on my deers as well of late, and I really love this page. The lightness, floatiness, the atmosphere, the moodiness of this, which is kind of reminding me of like when we have our mist in the mornings sometimes here in Scotland. And I also love to use color, so that's why you can see this brightness as well, because stags are not this color, but I love adding color. So this is a bit of a redacted page because I think I've used the colors and then I have sketched into it, and then I've used a lighter color to push back some of the bright colors here. So sketching really abstracted, elongated, quirky characters, and really spending time having fun doing all of that. So these are really exciting water solubles like watercolors, pastels to create these pieces. And I really love the way that there's actually two stags here going over. I think this is supposed to be a female one here, and she's kind of blended in, and then the stag is there. So I just really love that. I think also what I was trying to do here was I'm seeing examples of father and child. So very symbolic ideas I think I was going for here. So this is an example of this one here, which is very faint. But it's basically, this is the same kind of layout. And using pastels, I think these were, so chalk pastels, water-soluble pastels, oil pastels, then building on that idea to create like this piece here as well. And so I was really focused on making these images And so it's really inspiring to look back and look at the details. And I love drawing and sketching. So this is just fun to look at. I never used to understand how to use my sketchbooks, but I've been really exploring different ways of doing it these days. So this one here, I was trying to bring in a lot more of the ideas I have, which is of just nature in general and symbiotic relationships. So I have here a bird in the chest area of this stag, a bird up here in antlers, a bit of foliage and flowers inside the antlers there. Sometimes I have tried to consolidate my images together, as in bringing in all the different subject matter that I love to look at together onto an art piece, and that's what that was there. So this is really interesting. So I think I went through a period of redacting, of having paint put on a page and then pushing back some areas. So that might be an idea to do something like this today, to fill an area and then to go in and basically add some kind of pushing some areas back, like this one here. I can see that here as well, that I've tried to start adding a stag into this area with these flowers. So I could maybe do a little bit of that right now, and then I'll go on to some of the other pieces that I have in my sketchbook. So I've not done anything to this page for a long time, but I am going to go in and do some of that now with this page. And this is why I like looking through my sketchbooks. I know sometimes we can go through our sketchbooks and just think, right, that's a permanent page. I've done like that, so let's just move on. But I like to sometimes go back in and do something else with a page. So I could add more color to this, but because I just want to kind of play with that idea of redacting, I am just going to go straight in, and I might use my brush as well to kind of make sure I get the shape right. But I'm cutting into this and seeing what is left. So I'm using this tool here. I like using different tools to get different results. And the process is what helps to add to your paintings as well. I can scrape some back. I can sketch into that as well. So scratch into it to get some of the colors back. But you can see that it's pushed into that. So let's see. So if this is your first time here on my YouTube channel, as I said, my name is Beatrice Ajayi. I'm an artist based in Glasgow in Scotland, and I love to do my art here on the channel and share with you guys what I get up to, how I get inspired, where I get my ideas from. It's from all my interests, and that's one way to start being able to create artwork. It's not to copy other people and see what they're doing. What do you enjoy to look at? What do you enjoy to learn about? And that could be where you start off creating your artwork. It doesn't have to be what everybody else is doing. So here I'm trying to kind of bring up the legs. So this is a bit I've lined out here for adding other colors. So I'll do that in a minute. So that's what I'm saying about redacting areas and pushing some parts back. And this is, yeah, it's a lot of fun spending time doing that. And in here, we would now start looking at how we would expand on that. Let's see what else I can add. I'm going to try and fill in some of this ear and this area here and bring in some new colors, because it's quite light colors here. And what I can do is bring in some value in some areas and probably throw this all off a little bit. Let's see how it goes. So the ear's a bit gray here. I'm gonna add some of that to bring that. I can go over that when it dries as well. I'm gonna just start working on these antlers because I want them to be a bit more visible, and then when I go in to redact some areas, it's gonna make more sense. Then right now it is very blended up there, so it won't really have any impact. So you have to have contrasting colors to get that to work a lot better. And you can take your time so that you don't overdo some areas. So I'm trying to work on the snout here. It doesn't have to have a snout, actually. It doesn't have to have a nose area, but I am just adding that in. I'm going in here and trying to highlight where the leg is by adding a different color. So going over and just making it a bit more contrasty. So that you can see the stag a bit more. So I like going into my sketchbook and looking for areas that I might add things differently now than I used to before. And I actually like to sometimes, what would the word be? To get my image to drip. So I'm just gonna see if I want to do that right now. I might spritz it with my spritzer. So I have this here that I can just, I'm gonna tilt this. So some of it will drip down into some of the color. Let's just do this. So there's some lines coming down, and now I could have made this darker and some more, you know, other colors involved in it. I really love using inks in this actually, usually. So I'll leave this to dry and we can come back and look at it, but this has changed a little bit. It's sticking out, it's been redacted slightly. You can make this even lighter. It doesn't have to be as creamy as I've made it. I just wanted you to be able to see how this looks when it has been carved out. And trying to use, obviously I was trying to get this stag to be part of this landscape in this piece. So that was interesting to see that I was trying to bring in these elements of in nature together, and I really love that. So going forward, ideas I can do, which is what I'm trying to do, is still to bring them together but in a cohesive way, in a really enjoyable way. So I will let this dry just to the side and I'll get another sketchbook. So let's see what one I have here. I have different characters in here because my sketchbook has been a place of experimentation. So like I have this tiger here as well that I was working on. I really enjoyed this actually, which was working on just using similar colors to pull out the face of an animal. So I've forgotten I wanted to do that. I might get on with doing some of that. Here I was working on some floral and with some really fluorescent paint as well, which I really enjoyed using. And this one here, some more characters I was painting. I didn't really finish these, but it's good to see like a progress or a middle stage that I was doing here with this. But yeah, interesting. So going through here, there's, oops, I've just knocked my cover for my gesso over. But going through here, there are a lot of ideas of how I can approach my art if I want it to be more illustrative. And these are like folksy arty sketches of like owls and cats here. I'm always trying to figure out how to be gestural in my artwork. So like these birds here, I was trying to kind of, let's see, I was trying to kind of just be loose and just to not overthink myself. And then really like loose with my pencil. So yeah, today I just wanted to have fun and play around with some ideas I've had in the past, add different elements to them. I could maybe add some other colors to this now that I haven't had it before, because these were all pencil drawings, so I could come in and start adding some other gestures and colors, pinks. Experiment and see how loose I can be. Add some cream in here. And I could scratch into some areas in a minute. Let's see. Also, I've been wanting to use more of my spray paint, so let's see, put that brush away. So what color could I add in here spray paint wise? I'm just playing. I want to play in my sketchbook. I don't want anywhere to be restricted. And adding layers, even over the years, is a really interesting idea as you develop, going back into some pieces. And what would you add to that page? What would be different? So I'm just going to, so I'd call this bird project. I'm just going to spray paint this. My spray paint has been very naughty, actually. It keeps doing some strange ways of painting. Scratching into it. Adding some cream into it. I want to get like a gestural mark in here. And then what else as well? I could do some, let's see, some watercolor drips, I think. So if I go in here, which ones should I use? Maybe I could use some blue. I'll just spray this. This is my watercolor. I'm gonna go in here and just actually spray, like splash into this. I could maybe also add some spritz in here. Now, this is a sketchbook. It's not as, what's the word I would say, as strong a substrate as it could be. I could add some drips actually. So what I could do is lift this page and let it drip that way. So I've just changed the page slightly, and it was inspiration from this, of working on this bird. I really like the bird that was under there, but it's gone now, and I have a replacement bird. So this was fun. And also what I can do, if I wanted to change the texture of this as well, I could put paper on it. But I like the lines that are here, and I want them to dry the way they are. If I put paper over this, it would mesh the whole thing together. You wouldn't get these dots the way they are necessarily. So I'm going to leave it alone and go on to another idea. But this was a nice inspiration, and I've been cut short from actually going on to other things I have here. So like these frogs I find really interesting. These were watercolor pencils, watercolor and pencil as well. So that would have been fun to create something as well from that. So I will let this dry and I'll go on to another sketchbook. I have quite a few sketchbooks to go through and get some inspiration from and play with and be loose with, because I think that is more what in my time now is, to be very loose with what I'm doing. So let's let that dry. I'm gonna have quite a pile of sketchbooks by the end of this, really. Let's see. So let's see what I have here next. So this was an illustration that I started some time ago and I haven't actually finished. And it is of a girl and she is basically playing in a park. So she has a lot of scenes where she's in a park playing, and I really like the story, so someday that might happen. I have left it here because I want to be able to do something with it. I sketched the sketch really quickly, so that was fun. This was a bit of a reduction situation as well. There was a page full of colors, and then I've painted with this blue, trying to make butterflies in here. So, and this is another kind of redacted illustration that I did. I have it on my shorts where I think I show a little bit of the process, but I wanted to do a portrait. I'm not sure how I feel about how she turned out, but I like the colors. So the saturated blues and pinks and oranges, I really love that. So that was fun. And as you can see, I don't really look at my orientation of my sketchbook. I just kind of get into it and start painting, and I probably should be paying more attention. So this was an illustrated girl that I did some time ago, and I really liked the way she looked. I'm trying to think if I have a class of painting her on my website. I might do. So this was more of my illustrated work in here, and I really enjoy creating these characters because this was inspired, the eyes, the size of the eyes in a lot of my characters were inspired by my daughter. Her eyes are quite large and I wanted to create artwork for her, so I had a whole bunch of illustrations that I created connected to the size of the eyes. So that was fun. So I have some of those still around. I could always come back and do something with them, but it was a time that I really enjoyed working on those. This is more where I am now, which is this trying to go towards realism, as I said. So on this piece, I've got some of the, I think this is ink, or it might be acrylic, bronze acrylic paint as well. So I love adding textures and then painting over that. So I have a few pages that I can always use to create more of these. And I'm really enjoying the way that this looks. And it was also because I had the fluorescent paint. So I do need to order more of that. I think I've run out of them. So as I said, I had all these landscapes, these backgrounds that I'd abstracted backgrounds that I'd made, and I was painting portraits over them. So I would probably do something like that before the end of this live, is work on a portrait. So here I have some birds, which are pretty cool. I was trying to get the different positions of birds. So looking at sources and just sketching these out. And I used their water brushes or their brush pens. So that was what I used to sketch these out. And it's a lot of fun just going ahead and getting the little details into them. So yeah, and I wanted to have the expression of the way that they are so that I can actually just be free in the paintings that I created. So this was more about the motions of drawing, you know, like getting their heads in a specific angle and the patterns maybe on some of their heads to know what they look like, what gives them some character. So a lot of fun. And yeah, so let's see, what else could I add in this apart from their eyes? And you can go into details of making dots. I like adding patterns and all sorts of different things to get myself situated. I just love scribbling. And then you can add shadows. So I'm being very free with the way that I'm working through the sketchbook and adding areas into it. So I could keep drawing all day long, to be honest. So this overlap here, I was doing two things at once, still illustrating the birds and then adding, thinking of getting inspired to create a tiger as well. So this was a little bit of a quick study of a face of the tiger in there. Sketches, very interesting attempted sketches. I remember this stag and I didn't really do very much with it at the time, so I could do something now. So I could kind of outline it a little bit because it's kind of hidden. So just adding colors, playing around. So I wanted to start like really working on graduating colors that are similar beside each other and adding other colors that are similar and just starting to do like a monoblock, but not just with black and white or monochromatic necessarily, but just a kind of a blocking with paints and getting a variety within the actual color range. So I might mix a bit of red in some areas with the pink, just a touch of red to get a slightly different pink. It changes the color slightly. So just building like that. I wanted to try some of that as well. I've got some orange here I might bring in. And then I've got the landscape in the background. So yeah, this is basically what I wanted to try this morning, is to just go back and forth, add in interest, experimenting with things, building on what is already here, being inspired from what's in my sketchbook and building on what is already here. So I would think that there'd be some greens in here as well. And using different tools to get color onto your page, different ways of making marks. I have different tools here, like this one that spreads. Actually, just a minute, let me just take some of this away with some paper as well. Can do this to spread it around, and that's an effect. Now I've added that onto this and given it some texture, so that's exciting. If I wanted to like add another color, what else could I add to this? What's this color? It's a kind of green. I think I need to put my apron on actually. I've just remembered I don't have that on and I don't want to splash anything on myself, so let's put my apron on before I get into this. I can see a turquoise that I have here, some other colors. I can introduce aqua green. Aqua green, let's see, where could I'll put it on my palette and then I can always decide where to add it. There we go. Let's see, if I add, like some cream here. Lighten some areas. So it's kind of like a reductant again. I should obviously take a bit more care, but it's like when you're in the moment, sometimes it's not what happens. So I'll take some of that turquoise and start introducing it into the background. So seeing as it's supposed to be fields and things, let's like make it a bit more of a green. I might actually add, I'm thinking, some brown in here as well, but maybe the brown should stay on the actual stag. Actually, I take that back. So where would I add, like, using this tool? So I could leave it like this. I think I need to do one of these in black as well. I have a blue, so I'm gonna do that in a minute if it's working. Here we go. Let's see how much this is working. So that's very drippy. If I wanted, again, I could come in with this and squish some of this down, take some of it off, but you can see the result of that. And then I've got this as well with some paint on that. And then you can see how that looks. What was it I was using to splash some paint before? I think I was using some watercolor, but I'm gonna stay away from the watercolor at the moment. I want to try one of my other palette knives because I like using different tools. You get different marks and it just makes everything more exciting and interesting as well. So I'm really gonna change how this stag looks. Bring in some cream, bring in some other color too. Like I said, that actually I'm remembering now that I don't have much purples in here. But I'll get to that in a minute. I need to have some green. Let me just mix this in. So I don't have that much purple, so that might be an idea of something to bring in at some stage. So, right, let's try building this background of grasses and nature. I'm gonna put some Prussian blue down here. Also, I think I need more value, like darker areas in here. It's very light. So going through the sketchbook, it's really good because you can get ideas of what you can work on. And it is assisting my practice. It is informing. It's showing me also where I am. Like looking back at this before, I might not have had ideas, but now I'm using a lot of processes that I'm more careful. I just cleared my throat. I think I need to have a cup of tea. That I'm more comfortable with. So scratching into this. So a lot of mark making is going on. And sometimes you have to leave, you know, the art piece to dry as well. So I'm using my palette knife to add to this. And so you have less control in your work when you are using a palette knife. Less control. scratch into this to give it a different dimension as well. And I'm going to, like, these trees are really interesting. So mixing some red into this as well. It doesn't have to be anything finished. I just want to play in my sketchbook, get ideas, practice moving my hands around in gestural ways, also using my different tools to get a variety of results, scratching, dots. Reminding myself to be free. Every time I put something else down, I'm like, right, I need to be a bit freer. Sometimes it's good to use techniques that make it hard for you to control the actual process as well. So sometimes that's a good thing. So as I said, I wanted to add more value into it. It was very light and airy. So different greens will be introduced into it. Some other saturated greens I think need to come in. So you can let a lot of areas dry. I need to go into the sky. So I have to keep layering this and letting it dry as well through different bits of time, and then it will eventually be a bit more like that. I put way too much blue on this side. But yeah, how do we resolve these things when they happen? And that is what I'm doing here. Is I need to actually wait for it to dry, but I wanted to play with it while it's doing that. You know, the color's already down on the sketchbook, so I might as well see what colors I can bring out of it, mixing it wet on wet, and I can still end up cutting into it, but I wanted to see the shadows I can bring out, the textures, the interesting conversations of colors mixing on the actual sketchbook on the substrate. So this is how you can get really dynamic colors. I think I mentioned in one of my other painting sessions that basically using a sketchbook is quite harrowing sometimes because this line in the middle is like a serious separation. So what I've been doing with some of the art pieces is once they're dry is I take them out of the sketchbook if I don't feel what's behind is of any interest to me, and I will cut them and then glue them together so that they are joined together as one piece, and then I will actually work on it a bit more as well. So I mean, what we're seeing here is only, you know, just for this session like this, but once it dries, I can come back in and add more layers. So if I want to keep this, so I need to let it dry. The landscape is a lot more dynamic. If I want to change anything, like if I feel this neck is too, you know, whatever, then I can go into it, but I'm still leaning on the abstraction side of things, so I don't feel I need to do too much to it. I'm being free with it. It's my sketchbook. It's a place of experimentation, and I call my studio the art lab because it allows me to experiment and get all sorts of textures and not to be too precious about it in my sketchbook. So yeah, this is what it is looking like at the moment. So I'm gonna put this one aside. This is the third one we've worked on today, and then I will see what else I can be inspired by in my sketchbooks to work on. So it has changed from what it was originally, so that is good. So on to the next sketchbook, just making sure I don't rub paint on my clothes here. This is one that I worked on yesterday in the live, so I ended up making this girl from that, so you can check out that live to see how I got to where this piece is. And also I added the copper leaf onto that as well. So let's start at the beginning of this sketchbook and see if there's something else I can be inspired to do from this sketchbook. And so these were illustrations I created to make birthday cards from, but I haven't done anything with that, so maybe someday. But I really love the way that I've started playing in my sketchbook, and this is part of what I'm sharing right now, that I think I did this illustration, you know, as an overlap of that, and then I added this little character here and worked with some pens and, you know, pencil and then pens, and just sketched it in, had fun with that, was relaxed, loose. This is acrylic, so I was playing with acrylic in this session, working on portraiture. Wasn't really looking at realism here, still more illustrated, and trying to add some very vague fish into that. So just lots of different illustrative ideas going on. On my channel here, if it's the first time you've been here, my name is Beatrice Ajayi. I'm an artist based in Glasgow in Scotland, and I like to share the different subject matter I work on and also the different mediums I use. So that's what I have been doing on this channel for all this time that I've been here. You can check out some of my other videos on my main channel, Be Creative TV, and I really love to share my process and encourage you guys to work on whatever creative sphere you're interested in. And this one here, I really love the greens I brought in, and I've just remembered I wanted to use more greens today as well. So I love the way I played with these greens. I think this was more watercolor, or there might have been gouache, scraping in. There's some kind of background to this, or it was the way that I used my brushes. And I just love the time I took in her face to get those color tones and her eyes with the greens. Really enjoyed that one. Here, this was a bit from my still life that I love to do sometimes, and I've not done recently. So many ideas of what to do. Here I wanted to play with acrylics and really work on colors I don't use often. Again, this deep, you know, working with greens and focusing on that. So that is an idea coming to my mind of working. So I think there was a green thing going on in these illustrations. So yeah, green themes, and I'm thinking I want to maybe do something green because of that. So let's just play with something abstracted and see where that goes. Maybe a landscape with some greens. So I'm gonna just put like a couple of lines of greens or dots. Let's put dots. Actually, this is another way I do some stuff, which is to get some colors on a page, is to actually just put them like this. I'll show you. And then I will put another page over and roll over it. So let's add some greens. And I'm not going to think too much about this. I'm just going to do different things with greens on this page. And if it starts trying to dry out, I will spritz it. So I've done those two. Let's add this green. So this is what I'm saying I wanted to do today, was to really get inspired from my sketchbook and play. And I have a whole variety of kinds of work that I do in the sketchbooks, so why not? So these are paints I've had to the side that I've not used for a long time. What else do I want to add to this? Do I have it? Right, I might add some of the turquoise I had here as well, if I can get it. Like some of that. I think I need more of the turquoise. I can squeeze it out. I'm trying to go through my paints as well that are, I should say trying to get through my paints that are I've had for a while as well. So I am deliberately also working with paints that has very little left in the tubes. So I'm going to actually spritz this to keep some of it moist, and I'm probably going to use maybe a new piece of paper because I want to keep the greens just greens. So I'll be right back. I'm just going to get another, actually I could get another sketchbook and put it over this. So let me just see. Another sketchbook. Let's see what's in this one. Is there a blank page I could use to get a color on? I could just use this. It's not blank, but I'm going to do it. Anyway, I wanted to spend at least maybe an hour with you guys here, just playing in my sketchbook. So I'm putting some pressure on this now. It's gonna squish those colors flat and they'll get a texture on them. And I'm gonna pull my sketchbook back off if I can. Gosh. So that's the pattern that I've taken off on that. Let's put that aside. So it's not really done too much on this page, but what I'm gonna do is maybe put some of this cream in and bring some of those colors out. I want it to be green focused, so actually I've just thought about some of the textures I could bring out, just actually moving my this tool across like this and add in some of this creamy white. So it's, I mean, spending time being creative, don't tell me this doesn't give, like, doesn't add fun to things, because processes, it doesn't have to be that we have a specific goal in mind, as in to challenge ourselves into like something concrete straight away. We can just find out what our tools do. So I wanted to try the green, and this is a nice way to blend that green and those colors on the page. Just keep adding more of this cream. So we can also scratch into this. We can do a lot of things. So this page has been changed. And it's quite dreamy. There, that's what we'll do for this page. That was fun. I could spend all day on this actually, just making these designs with different colors. Doesn't have to be only green. Different colors, building different layers. So I'll put this aside to dry. That was interesting. Green. I'm looking for how many other sketchbooks I have actually. Am I going to do something in all of them? Not all of them have things that might change. Oh, there's some space in this one. So these are some mini sketchbooks. So let's see how many I get through in this hour. Different illustrative works. I've got papers in here I could use for collage. Some detailed drawing in this one. And looking at pattern, I guess, because I have worked on some darker areas here, and then I've got this pattern in the background. So I think I was just trying to work on hyper focusing on one area there. Here I have some beautiful landscapes. I love these. I never came back and touched these. And these are amazing for reminding me of where I want to go with my landscapes. I want to go back to this because I really loved how I filtered down the way I used the greens and my yellows and really deepened them and gave them a highland, like a more of a Scottish moody hillside and forests, and I love that. So working on some more floral work, some collage here. So collage flowers, painted flowers with acrylics, and using some of the copper color in the acrylics, copper acrylic paint. Back to some of the landscapes. Again, really love these. And I want to get back into this, taking my time with the skies, and I think this is more like cobalt blue that I was bringing in here, or cerulean blue. That was it. That's another one as well. So it's knowing my colors and what colors worked and how I liked the way that they resulted from mixing them together. So I have no idea what this is. Oh yeah, I'm trying to think. No, it's not a, is this a bee? I have no idea what I was trying to do with this bit, but some sort of collage. Another landscape again. So these were from some years ago, so they're slightly different from the landscapes I do now. I will show you, maybe I should show you some examples of my landscapes now. Let's see. I haven't finished these yet, but I'm still working on this ones. But this kind of look, these looks are more what I've been pushing into recently. Not finished, but you can see the play here like I did with that green page just some moments ago. Play with the paint, blending them, moving them, showing movement through the way that I'm using the paint. Well, the color palette has changed quite a bit as well, from the greens to add in the purples. Looking at textures, the way that I'm scratching into it, and collaging. So there's a lot of other things at play now in the way that I'm approaching painting, and that's why I'm looking back at my sketchbooks and seeing what I've done in the past, and maybe I want to bring some of that into what I'm doing now to inform it, to give it an extra juice, to make sure that I'm still going along with the core interests I have in my process. So here I'd stripped everything back because I wanted to focus on horses, which I love as well. Very similar to stags actually, but I love working on horses. So this might be something I do with some watercolor I've got here as well. Horses. So that has been an inspiration. Let me just see. So I've got this watercolor paper here, and I'm thinking similar idea to this. I could work with some of the paints I have just there and paint some horses. So I have put the title for this live as working in a sketchbook or sketchbook tour, but also some painting, because I want to be getting some inspiration for what I'm doing, and that is basically what I wanted to do this morning. So, and then just taking my time and mixing some other colors in and playing with this. So, some hair. I'm not taking it seriously at all. So, and I think it's kind of not necessarily folksy art, this style would be, but also like primitive. I think I would put it also in the layer of primitive art. Some pink that's got some of my blue still on it, so it's more of a purple. I'll put some of the cream in, see what that does. That does something else. And back legs. So very similar, simple idea. Maybe I'll use some of the greens, and or maybe I'm trying to think purple, and what color goes next? Orange. I keep confusing which one goes with what. If it's blue and orange and yellow and purple. I think it's blue and orange. And I have some of my okay, maybe I'm trying to think what to put around this piece, because it is here. Let's do some orange, because that's what I have on my actual palette, and then I might put some white in it. But I am almost out of time. I think it's 3 minutes to my 1 hour possibly finishing. So I'm just gonna put this down quickly. And that's the thing, I would probably just work on some green background, really, if I had my time to do this. I would add some of the greens. But what I'm doing right now is looking at the tool I'm using and feeling like my brush strokes, also enjoying the movement, and then I can scratch into this as well. So there's so many ways that I can play with this. I can scratch into it. So I'm gonna scratch into it in a minute. But making that call to blend in areas. So what it is that I can paint this, and if I didn't like it, I can always paint over it. But also, it is building a layer over this. This is watercolor paint, so it's not that I'm using it for watercolor. I'm currently using it for acrylic, which is probably my first love, is acrylic. And you can do some dots. I can introduce a little bit of turquoise into this, or the aqua blue, aqua green. Oh, this is my alarm. Alexa, stop. So I can add some of this in. So I'm just gonna keep on playing with my sketchbook, and I will see you guys next week, next Monday, for some more lives. But I enjoyed this session a lot, and it was fun. So yeah, go ahead and try working on some art for yourself. I have just gone through 1, 2, 3. It's about 5 different sketchbooks or so, getting inspired by art I've created in the past, and uh, coming back out with it. So and coming back and experimenting and adding in how I would approach it now. So this was really nice inspiration right here at this last point of working on this horse and coming out with that. So, but there's so much more that can be done. Way more, I mean, scratching into this, you know, writing a story into the horse. How cool. Because I know that this area is still wet, and I liked that idea of gestural writings in artwork. So you can do so much. So much now that I want to be able to add back into my art process. So thank you so much for joining me. My name is Beatrice Ajayi. I'm an artist based in Glasgow in Scotland, and hopefully if you join me over on Be Creative TV, I can answer some of your questions if you make some comments there. I'm not sure how it works with the lives, but if you do ask a comment, a question, hopefully I could get back to you as well, and I'll see you guys next week. So bye for now. Bye-bye. Bye.